Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud Course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. Guys, before starting, this is the last week of Black Friday on my website, so if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out my course. It's a heavily discounted price right now. Now going into the track guide itself, for turn 1, my reference for braking is this 100 meter board. After 100, almost like in the middle of 150, I'm applying the brakes. You don't want to brake very hard into this corner, but also you want to put your brake bias more towards the rear tires in general on this track. So the default brake bias, if you're using the fixed setup, will be a bit too high, so dilute it down a bit. That's the first thing. And in terms of the braking, you don't want to brake super hard here because you don't want to overheat your rear tires. You want to have your tires working in their best shape on your way out, because the exit of this corner is crucial. You really need to have a good launch out of this corner, since this leads to one of the biggest straights of the track. This and the last sector, the straights, these are the most important parts and you want to get them right. So what I'm doing right now, I'm braking around 70%. I'm not braking more, even though you can go and brake a bit later and harder. Over the whole corner, you won't gain time. You will gain that time on entry, but you will lose that time in the mid part and the exit just because the tires are too hot. So aim to brake, let's say, no more than 75% around here. So don't start with the mentality of late and hard braking. This is not the corner for it. The exit is just what matters. So if we're thinking like this, then we will prioritize our corner exit and we will prioritize just positioning the car on the perfect racing line, and that is cutting this part of the green very close to this wall. So notice in my brake shape, I'm trail braking all the way I arrive to the curb. The moment that I feel this curb on these right tires, that's the moment where I release the brakes and put the throttle on. So at this point in time, I'm pressing the throttle. Notice that I'm super early going back on throttle in second gear, and because the grip levels are changing around here, sometimes you have to modulate just a bit more on your way out, like up until now, and then straight up. So you see here in my throttle shape that it had a bit of modulation up until 60% or so, and then it went straight up like this. So this is just because of the grip level that you meet towards the curb. Then you get to more and more grip level when the steering wheel is getting close to 0 degrees, and then you just keep it pinned. So in short, that's turn 1. You want to have a steady throttle application. You want to touch the green part of the curb, getting very close to the wall on the inside, and then using all the track here on the exit. If you see yourself with your throttle trace having things like going up and down in your throttle trace, then you're losing a lot of time on this big straight. And this is just gonna be a very simple part up until we get to Le Combe. So we can skip it. Now, when we arrive here, first things first is using all the track. And what I mean by using all the track is having these left tires all the way brushing the grass. You see? So my antenna right now when I'm braking is all the way to the left of the white line. It's not on the white line, it's to the left of the white line, and this is key. I'm braking in the middle of this curb, so there's not a precise reference for braking, but as you can see, more or less here in the middle I'm applying the brakes. I want to take as much as I can from this curb. Look, my right tire again is very close to the gravel trap on the right side. So cut as much as you can here, use your tire and brush the sand almost, and the moment that you hit the curb, you should be back on throttle. You see, in terms of braking, it's a bit harder than turn 1, just because you have a bit more speed, but because right now we're going almost like in an S in the next corner, again, you just want to cut as much as you can and you don't want to overheat the tire too much. Now pushing the throttle, my aim was here to reach 100% throttle before this next left-hander. So my plan in Lecombe is, okay, I will cut the curb a lot, that's the first thing. On entry, I will use everything. And then when I get back on throttle, I want to reach 100% throttle before I hit this curb right here. This is exactly what I'm doing. And the reason why this works is, first of all, whenever you're gonna go to 100% throttle, you're pushing your minimum speed a lot in this section. But also, when you drop that throttle, the grip that you get by dropping the throttle on your front nose, on the front tires, will be even higher because you will transfer more energy, more weight from the rear suspension to the front. So right now, when the weight transfer happens, you see, I'm getting a lot of turn in, and I don't really have to drop all the way to, you know, just 0, because I can get away with this kind of throttle drop. Getting back to 100, putting the car all the way to the left, and then turning, keeping everything flat out like this, using all this curve, and this is gonna be easy. So this corner right here, the one that you just saw, should always be flat. So no matter what you do in the preparation of this, you must have this flat out, this around here. And if you will have the car positioned all the way on the right side on the exit, like right now, if the car will be all the way on the right side, it's gonna be impossible for you to take the next one flat and you will lose time. It's better to sacrifice a bit by having the car more towards the center than going all the way to the right side and then not having enough time to take this next corner flat. So key takeaway, this corner should be flat. Now going into the downhill braking zone, I'm braking after the curb begins. So right now you see quite late on the brakes, I'm applying the brakes and I'm almost trying to go as quickly as I can to this curb because I will treat this corner as a double apex. So the first apex is right here near the green. Notice that I'm still on the brakes, still on the brakes, still on the brakes. Now the car tracks out just a bit wider. And then when I'm pushing the throttle, I'm apexing after the second green. So you see two apexes around here. First one is this, apex 1, go wide, apex 2 after the green, and then the car will be all the way on the left. And this is fine, you will carry a lot of speed. Notice in my brake and throttle traces, at no point in time I have a gap in the inputs, so it's just brake, trail brake, trail brake, trail brake up until I hit my second apex, and at the second apex I'm pushing the throttle aggressively. This is how you should think about this corner. Now for the next one, bring the car all the way to the right, you can even use this curb a bit, and then when turning you just barely feather the brakes, no more than 15% on the brakes. Look, I'm using 30% right here. And then even before hitting the curb, you should go back on throttle, because what happens in this corner is that the car gets looser from the rear end, because all the weight will be on the front whenever you're going downhill like this. When you apply a bit of the brakes, you add even more weight on the front tires and the rear will start to step out. So you're getting more rotation than you need in this corner, and if you're not quick with your throttle input, you can spin the car. So in order to take advantage of that rotation, you have to, in a way, stop it early on. So obviously by being earlier on throttle, you're gonna gain time. That's simple. But with being even earlier than that, you will also balance the car. So the throttle here is used first of all to gain time, but also to balance the car and get more like a neutral balance out of it, rather than the oversteery balance that we generally have in this corner. So getting very early on throttle, don't brake more than you need here. First of all, you can spin the car easier if you brake more, but generally if you're just gonna brake more, you might get the neutral balance, but the car will be super slow, so you will lose a lot of time. Now pushing the throttle, you see 0-100, no hesitation whatsoever, cutting that curb to the inside and now using all this part. This was quite a good corner for me. And now going into Puon, a high-speed corner. First of all, use all the track, brush the grass with your right tires, use everything right here. And before you see this, it's a bit harder to judge the braking. In the past, in the last version of Spa, we had here a traffic lights that I was using for my braking point. Right now, I'm barely looking at this number 10 here and this Marshall house right here, but I'm gonna brake before it, so it's that one plus the middle of the curb. So you see, I'm planning to brake almost in the middle, like this. Is more than the middle actually. You see, it's closer to the number 10, and I'm braking a bit more than in the previous corner, but again, it's a high-speed corner, you don't want to brake that much. So 24, and then in 5th gear, I'm not going to 4th, and now going back on throttle. So if you look now on my telemetry trace, it's just a longer trail braking, longer than the previous one, and then smashing the throttle in 5th gear, using all the track like this, and you can get away with even less on the brakes. As you can see here, I lost a bit of time. So I lost around, let's see, 0.05 by just braking a tiny bit more than you need. You see, look here. So you see, the differences are so small, but you just brake like 5% more and then you're losing half a tenth. And this can happen in any corner. So just an example of the level that you can achieve if you can consistently brake a bit less than everyone else and carry just a bit more speed. But obviously, braking a bit less means adjusting other things in your inputs, but just keep it as a thing worth having for improvement. Now going into the next corner, my reference for braking is the beginning of the curb. Once again, I mount and I use everything right here. So left tires, brushing the grass, braking in a straight line initially, then turning more and more, still trail braking, still on the brakes up until here, and from here I'm going back on throttle, keeping it pinned. When I'm taking this corner, I'm doing a small lift, but notice that for this corner I don't drop it to 0. You can get away with just a small lift like this. A bit messy because I turned a bit too early. Ideally this will be flat. And now for this corner, which as turn 1, this has the same importance as turn 1, since it leads to the second biggest straight of this track. You must nail this corner, and the entry, once again, it doesn't matter as much as the exit. Obviously, the exit is just a consequence of the entry, but in terms of the mentality of pushing really hard on the entry, this is not the corner for it. You have to push here on your exit. You want to go early on throttle and aggressive on throttle. So in order to make that work, what I'm doing here, I'm using all the track. Notice that I mounted everything to open up the corner as much as I can to make sure that I'm really using everything. Now in terms of the braking, you don't want to brake that hard, but you want to hold the brakes quite long. Look, still on the brakes, still on the brakes, still braking. And then in 3rd gear, so I'm downshifting from 5th to 3rd because I'm not caring about the minimum speed in this corner. I'm just focusing on having a good exit. Maybe 4th gear will be a bit faster, maybe, but on average 3rd gear is gonna give you more rotation. More rotation means you can go earlier on throttle. So try to find the gear that works the best for you. You can make 4th gear work, but on average I think 3rd is just gonna be straight up better. So in 3rd gear, even before that, touching the curb, going on throttle, 0-100, keeping it pinned, and look now at the delta on my axis. So I'm just gaining time here, or a tiny bit, but see, it starts to just, even if it's 0-0-1, it's still something that will make a difference, especially in a race where we have slipstream, things like that. So right now, see 0-0-1, we're going through the last corner. First of all, brake diagonally for this corner. Don't have the car all the way on the left. You will travel a longer distance. If now you're gonna just turn your steering wheel towards the left side and then you're gonna brake straight, this will be a longer distance compared with just keeping the car pointed straight and just go diagonally towards the braking. So what I mean is this, look, I'm keeping it on the right, and then when I arrive to the braking zone, I'm arriving from this angle right here. So it's a small difference, but it's like 0.03, 0.04, free lap time to gain or lose. In terms of the braking, slightly before the beginning of the curb or the ending of the grass here, brake quite hard, 90%. This is one of the lowest speed corners of the track, so this is the place where you will use your tires, you will use your brakes. So braking quite hard, you see 90%, and then just dropping gradually in second gear. Try to aim to trail brake smoothly like I'm doing here, and now getting very close to this curb, because now we're gonna push the throttle to 100%. Reaching 100% in between these two corners of the chicane is key. Now I'm dropping the throttle, adding just a tiny bit of brake to make the car rotate, and pushing the throttle once again. And in short, that's a track guide in the round spa. Again, if you want to improve at a quicker pace, check out my course. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.